Hey, Igniting Faith family, we are back. I'm so glad that you could join us. And as promised, we're going to kind of continue this week and sharing different ways that God speaks to us in preparation for the upcoming Amplify Gods Voice in Business workshop on Wednesday, March 1st. So yesterday we spoke about the primary way that God speaks to us is that still small voice, because he wants us to draw in close to him to really start to know his heart, right? And today what I wanted to kind of chat with you about is that God can speak to us in an audible voice. This has happened to me. I was reflecting on this, I believe, one time. So it's not the primary way in which that he speaks to us, at least in my personal experience to date. But this is definitely something that can be done. Before I share my personal testimony of how he spoke to me and how it really changed things for me and for my business, I want to take us to scripture and point out that it's in scripture that he can and he does speak audibly to us. This by no means is an all-encompassing list, and I would encourage you to go do your own homework and read scripture, because reading scripture is one way in which the Lord does speak to us, and we can get revelation and impressions that way too. So that's a wonderful way. But as I was kind of going through, God speaks in Exodus 3:14 when he says, God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel. I am has sent me to you. And then let's read some more here. 1 Samuel 3:11. Then the Lord said to Samuel, behold, I am about to do a new thing in Israel, at which the 2 ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. And then in 2 Samuel 2:1, after this, David inquired of the Lord, shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah? And the Lord said to him, go up. And then David asked here, to which shall I go up? And then he responds, to Hebron. What I really encourage about this is this particular one, 2 Samuel 2:1, is showing a conversation, a dialogue between David and the Lord. He's asking, he's conversating. The Lord wants us in conversation. He wants us in relationship, just like we get to know those that we are maybe are courting, or our husbands or spouses. You have to communicate, right? And you have to ask. One of the things when I talk about sales is the most misstep is asking. And this is a good example. Like, the Lord wants you to ask, wants you to seek his heart, and he will answer. This is a great example of that. And man, I got a couple other scriptures here too, but we'll do one more. And Isaiah 7:3. And the Lord said to Isaiah, go out to meet Uzzah, I believe is how you pronounce it, you and Shira, Jasub, your son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool of the highway to the washer's field. This is really what stands out to me as I'm reading this, is it's very detailed in regards to what he wants you to do, where he wants you to go, and what he wants you to do there. So it's very detailed. So if we draw closer to the Lord, he's going to give us the details that we need to move forward in our calling. And I experienced God's audible voice. So my son, as I'm sitting here live today, is just over 2.5 years ago. He's a little over 2.5, going on 3 years. So almost 2.5 years ago, I was 8 weeks postpartum. And at that point in time, let me give you this backstory. This is actually really important. So prior to the birth of our son, we experienced 2 miscarriages. Then we had a really challenging pregnancy. I was very sick well into 22 weeks, lots of morning sickness. There was an ER trip in there. We found out now our son, we didn't know the gender at the time, had some issues with his kidneys. So we were constantly going to our normal OBGYN as well as a specialist regarding the kidneys. And so there's so much unknown. Then at 33 weeks, and mind you, at 33 weeks, 4 days, I believe, I was put in the hospital with preeclampsia, and this was right after the onset of COVID. So we were in lockdown here, and I was admitted to the hospital and said, you're staying here until this baby comes. And the doctor who is of retirement age, who's seen so many cases go through, he said it's most likely that you will deliver within a week, which would have meant a NICU stay. But he said our goal is to get to 37 weeks. And I put that in mind. 37 weeks is our goal. But I share this backstory to you to say that during this pregnancy, my number one focus was on the love that I had for this unborn baby. We'd already had so many other struggles with the miscarriages. There was nothing that you could say to me or get in my way of we were going to have a healthy baby, and this baby was going to come to this world, and he did. So here is Wyatt today. He's healthy. We don't have any kidney issues. He has one very healthy functioning kidney. The other one's not, but it's not a big deal. It's not going to be he may not play contact sports. That's about it. So it's very minimal to his quality of life, right? So we're very, very blessed. And I share this backstory to you because I was still trying to start my business, and my focus was so much on this pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy. And when I got admitted to the hospital, I just threw up my arms. I was like, it is what it is. God's got a plan. We're just going to focus on this one goal of getting to 37 weeks. So we're not having to have a NICU stay. And that's what I did. I kicked up my feet in the hospital, and we got to 37 weeks one day, and we had this beautiful baby. So I had threw up my business. I threw up my hands with my business, put it on the back burner to focus on the love that I had for this unborn baby. Now we have my Wyatt. So at 8 weeks postpartum, I was really starting to, now I have everything I've ever dreamt. I have this beautiful baby in my arms, and my heart wanted more. My heart wanted more. I remember those words that the impression that the Lord gave me a couple years prior, and that was faith in business. And I remember at 8 weeks postpartum, I was up at a 2 a.m. feeding with my son. And just as hungry as he was, I was hungry for more. I was hungry to birth what the Lord had spoke to me in his still small voice a couple of years prior, and that was faith in business. And I remember sitting there nursing my son, crying out to the Lord, tears coming down my face, and saying, you told me faith in business. What do you want me to do? How am I supposed to birth this? Please, if you want me to go back to a corporate job, tell me that. Here I am having this conversation with the Lord, and the Lord spoke very audibly to me. And he said, if you put as much faith in your business as you did into bringing life into this world, you'll move mountains. Wow. And it was so, I don't even know if I still have the words to explain how pivotal that audible voice was to me, because I started to unpack why he said faith in business to me. I was still, operating like we're going to do a traditional secular business. And here, and I also understood, from my own walk in faith, that faith is the first principle that we see in the Bible. When God spoke the world into existence, the world didn't exist. So he spoke it by faith, right? So I'm starting to unpack this. I'm like, okay. And I'm starting to recall a prior dream that he shared with me in my early 20s. I'll share this coming in a next live. And I'm starting to unpack and seeing this pattern that he has given me over the years. And then through this whole pregnancy journey, you could not have told me anything different other than that I was going to deliver a healthy baby. And it was because of the love that I had for that child that pushed out any fear. I mean, yes, did I have some fear? Did I have some anxiety? But it was minimal on the scale of everything that was going on. There was still this peace that surpassed all understanding. And it was, we see in 1 John, is it 18? Please double check that. He says, the perfect love of Christ casts out that fear. So just as I had this perfect love for my unborn child that was casting out the fears of so many unknowns, I was fixed. I had this faith-fixed mindset. I was going to deliver a healthy baby. We were going to get to 37 weeks as our goal. He was not going to be a NICU baby, right? And by having a fixed faith mindset around these goals, I was able to birth exactly that. I was able to get to our goal despite what the statistics and the doctors were saying. And I started to realize this whole connection regarding faith and standing in that faith and living by that faith and grabbing hold of those promises that the Lord has. And just that overwhelming love that I looked back on this journey and went, how in the world did I walk this out and was not a crazy person, right? While everyone was freaking out about COVID and here I was like, this is what we're not going to let that fear bother me, right? And I was so just fixed on the love of our son, our baby that was coming into the world. And it was such a deep revelation and a deeper conviction that I needed to grab hold of this promise that he gave me for faith in business and start to walk this out and birth this. But I was going to have to do it by faith, through faith, and grabbing hold of those promises. And it has been my personal experience by receiving an audible voice from the Lord for my business. And it really, I don't even know how to articulate the depth of how it started to change things, how it started to change me, how I started to go through a healing process, and how I started to understand that I was going to be doing business differently and in partnership with the Lord. And there was going to be a very strong focus on faith and business. We're not going to have silos. We're going to have one, we're not build these separate things and faith be here and business here, but it was going to be one, and we're going to be in partnership. So it really started to give me a lot of revelation and conviction for how I personally was supposed to walk out my business. And that's just my personal testimony of what it was like for me to hear the audible voice of the Lord and how it changed things for me and the path that I was on for my business. So again, it's not a primary way that he speaks, but we do find it in biblical, in the Bible. He does speak that way. So don't be surprised. Again, as we spoke about yesterday, two primary ways that he's going to speak is through his written word and that still small voice. But this is yet another way in which that he speaks to us for our lives, for our businesses. And now that we are starting to have a better understanding for the ways in which we speak, the ways in which we can hear him, I'm inviting you to amplify his voice, right? I'm inviting you to amplify his voice in the upcoming Amplify God's Voice in Business workshop, where I will be unpacking what I call the freedom framework that I have walked myself through as well as clients through, to take dominion and authority over our time, to live in obedience, because this is the key to hearing God's voice, recognizing it, and maturing in recognizing God's voice so you can get the details for your life and your business, is obedience. So God gave me a freedom framework of obedience of how I should be living my life and my business in regards to where I should be spending my time. And so I'm unpacking this freedom framework so that when you get to the end of it and you realize that you have 10 hours to spend on your business because you're a wife, you're a mother of kids and all the things, how are you going to make it work? You're going to gain clarity. And because of your obedience, right? God's going to take your 2 fish, your 5 loaves, and he's going to give you a miracle, right? So this is what we're unpacking in the Amplify God's Voice workshop. I'm so excited to give this to you. It's a small investment of $27. You do get the replay. So if you can't attend live, you do get that replay that you can have at your disposal for the rest of your life, because it is something that I come back to quite often, especially as a mother of a young child. We're always in transition seasons where I'm having to readjust and go, okay, Lord, what does business look like today in this season, right? So super excited to invite you into that. I'm going to get all the details in the comment section. And as always, guys, ask me, ask the Lord, ask myself, ask wise counsel what questions you have about hearing God's voice and walking that out in partnership with the Lord, whether that be in regards to marketing, messaging, sales, the whole 9 yards, because I have stories and testimonials that I can share with you, and I'm happy to do so. So in the comment section, let me know what questions you have, and we will get those, we'll get that out to you. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I look forward to coming back with you guys tomorrow to share another way in which the Lord speaks to us. Have a wonderful evening, guys. Thank you.